welcome back to the chatting app.
Can we please use that as our intro?
Yes.
Can we let that run?
All right, that's it. Welcome back to the chatting average. We're unfortunately all of us are in person, which means it would have been easier to get video working, but we didn't. So
it's really difficult.
I can touch Adam.
We're holding hands, right?
I can touch John.
Hands.
We can sing Kumbaya.
Kumbaya, my lord.
Yeah, we're at the residence of John Lieber. That screaming you just heard was not real.
Yeah, that was edited in
after
the fact.
So shout out.
That is Mickey Doolittle, the roommate.
It's been a very big week in Major League Baseball.
No way.
Free agency, believe it or not, since the last time we recorded a podcast, there have been several free agents that have signed.
Which
We're
time
get to
that we recorded the podcast? The first time or the last 10 minutes?
So our
we
last
recorded?
episode took 3 days to record. This one hopefully will not take 3 days to record because we have a lot of other things to do in the next 2 days.
That's true.
Adam also won't be here.
That's correct. Yeah, I have a flight on Tuesday morning. So
the store.
We will get to the free agent signing. Second half of the show, we'll get a little bit into these top 10 lists that MLB Network has been putting out over the last couple weeks. They haven't done everybody yet, so it's going to take a little, we'll probably finish that up next week. But for the time being, do we want to jump into free agency stuff to start?
Yes, I would love to.
All right, so we last recorded on the 9th of January, and nothing happened after that recording, so we'll move forward to the 10th of January. We have 2 signings on the 10th of January. One of them, Caleb Ferguson, signs with the Pirates, and the other one, a little more interesting in my opinion, Jeff Hoffman signing with the team that drafted him, the Blue Jays. Made his Major League debut with the Blue Jays, was part of the Troy Tulowitzki trade, if you guys can remember that far back, and finally going back around to the Blue Jays 3-year deal. How do we feel about these 2 reliever signings?
The Hoffman deal's 3 years, $33 million, just for reference. My computer's taking a while to load.
Oh, that'll happen.
But I will get Caleb's contract details whenever I can. But I like you said, I like the Hoffman signing. I think for
first-time All-Star last year.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that we don't really know what they're going to do, they didn't get Roki Sasaki. We'll talk about that.
They didn't get anyone.
True. We'll have to see how often he's getting used out of the bullpen, but it could be very interesting.
Blue Jays reportedly the 3rd team to try and sign Jeff Hoffman, finished 3rd for their own free agent signing, and he had to skip out on his first 2 teams due to failed physicals, which raises questions as to why the Blue Jays are giving him 3 years for a guy that failed 2 physicals already. But beside the point, I don't think it's ever a bad deal to sign a reliever, and especially a reliever that's had recent success. This is a fine move, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Jeff Hoffman. The Braves and the Orioles were the first 2 teams in on him per Robert Murray. The Braves flagged his physical, and they wanted him as a starter for a bit, then to transition to a reliever. Orioles had flagged him possibly for the same reason, most likely in his shoulder. And then the Blue Jays were the 3rd team in on him. But you look at the stats that he had in his first and only All-Star appearance last year. 2 WAR as a reliever. He go in 66 and a third innings pitched to a 1.88 ERA plus a traditional ERA of 2.17.
Those are really good numbers.
Really good and there's a reason why he got so much buzz in the starting pitching market is because something that's been in vogue recently has been converting these high leverage effective relievers into starters, stretching them out over the offseason, maybe putting an innings cap on them, a la Garrett Crochet, Jordan Hicks over in San Francisco, Reynaldo Lopez in Atlanta. And so he was possibly one of the next in that trend, but this time, instead they bring him out and he does great in the back half of the bullpen. As for Caleb Ferguson, negative 0.5 WAR last season, but he did pitch to a 104 ERA plus after traded to the Astros in 2024. So an 81 ERA plus with New York and a 104 post-trade. So significantly improved numbers in Houston, possibly some mechanic stuff he worked out, probably will fill some more space in the back end of the bullpen for Pittsburgh. Probably a 7th or 8th inning guy, but not a bad move. Probably not a super expensive move either. So
Yeah, this move screams to me. You see this happen not necessarily just with the Pirates, but every year there's a couple teams that you don't necessarily expect to be competitive that go out and get a high leverage reliever like that, and they'll flip them at the deadline, especially on a 1-year deal. They flip them on a deadline. More than anything, it's just buying a prospect, or buying a draft pick, and I think that's fine. That's something that a team like the Pirates could use. They've had a lot of success in the draft recently. Could see them on the rise in the near future. Any final thoughts there? Should we move forward?
That Ferguson deal is a 1-year, $3 million deal, which is the same as our next guy we're going to talk about, Jorge Lopez, who signed a 1-year, 3-year deal, or 1-year, $3 million deal with the Washington Nationals. This man has been on almost every team in the league at this point. I don't really understand how that works. He has played for 2 teams in 2024, 2022, 2020, 2018. He's played for 3 teams in 2023. So, .9 WAR last year. Again, it's the Nationals, and I think we've talked about this a lot on the chatting averages, just that, they're very close, but they're still a couple years off. So it's like they're at this point where they're at, we're going to sign this guy because we need to fill this spot in the bullpen until we figure out what we're actually going to do with this spot in the bullpen. .9 WAR last year, he had a 2.89 ERA, which was his second lowest of his career, and split time between the Mets and the Cubs. So I don't know how much this moves the needle for anybody here, if it really needs to be taken into account past that.
Yeah, I mean, he's, Nationals are a team that's getting younger and getting better. I can see why you'd want to go out and get a veteran just in case these younger guys aren't performing well. Not to say that Jorge Lopez was exactly the most stable reliever last year, but he does provide more experience than some of the other guys you have.
Absolutely, and you want an older guy like that in the room, especially when you have, as the Nationals did, they had a lot of rookies come up last season, a lot of prospects come up last season. Obviously, you saw at the end of the year, they had some issues with clubhouse discipline about, getting guys to, stay focused on baseball as the season wears on. And so having some veteran presence, I think, in that clubhouse is going to be very valuable for them.
So moving on to the 12th. Only one deal that day. The minor league deal, the Braves signing first baseman outfielder Garrett Cooper.
Tell me about that one.
Not a lot, I'll be honest with you. There's a decent chance that since the Braves have been remarkably quiet in the offseason, that he might actually crack the opening 40-man, possibly even the 26-man. And a lot of that has to do with the depth out in left field specifically. It's just really, really tough for the Braves right now because Jared Kelenic is penciled in at either left field or right field. Ronald Acuna Jr. is still rehabbing his knee. He's probably going to be out for at least the first 2 months of the season. So looking at Kelenic and Michael Harris holding down center and likely right field, you look at left field, and the only move they've made in the offseason so far has been Brian De La Cruz, who we put down as the least valuable player of the year during our yearly awards.
Which is true, but also he was somebody that I drafted in our non-tender draft.
Right.
So I'm expecting a bounce back. I don't know about you guys.
I'm
taking a waiver on him.
If Brian De La Cruz can bounce back and the Braves bought really low on him, I would be impressed. Garrett Cooper offers a little, just, kind of a similar thing as that, that corner outfielder. He can play first, although I doubt Matt Olson would really need to be relieved of first base very often, if at all.
That's injury insurance more than anything.
Pretty much. But he's a righty guy. He only had a 59 OPS plus when he played last year, negative .8 WAR. I don't expect to see too much of him. He'll be great in Gwinnett.
I would say, I think it's just when you're trying to compete, you want somebody in the minors that can come up and fill a position.
Totally agree.
And it's not somebody that you're well, this guy has been in the minors for us for 10 years, and if we need him, he'll be called up. I mean, you're going to call up a guy who's got major league experience in Garrett Cooper.
That's a very, very good point. There's no such thing as a bad minor league deal. We move forward to the 13th. 3 signings today. The Orioles dipping in on Andrew Kittredge. The Mariners signed Donovan Solano, who apparently still plays baseball. And the Cubs signed Colin Rea. How do we feel about these 3?
The Kittredge deal is a 1 year, $9 million deal with a club option in 26.
Kittredge is an interesting case. A former, very highly rated prospect. Didn't really work out with the Rays. Didn't really work out with the Cardinals either. Going to be interesting to see if a change of scenery can really, shake the rust for a guy like him. But again, just a short deal, not a ton of money. It's a high upside, low downside type move. I think this will work out fine for the Orioles, especially an Orioles team that really, really needs some help. They've had a rough offseason. Sansoni, you've been on their case. Tell me how you feel about this one.
This is a good move for the Orioles. And I hate to say that because Mike Elias, I'm going to hold my tongue on you right now. But a 1.5 WAR last year for the Cardinals, 3.35 strikeout to walk rate. Looking at a 2.8 ERA over 70 and 2/3 innings. This is a guy who was effective when he was out there. It was his second most valuable season of his career, which is stretching back 8 years at this point. I like this signing for the Orioles. I wish they would do more. I think this does anchor.
Anthony Santander still out there.
By the way. Unless you're really set that Tyler O'Neill's that replacement. But I like the move for Andrew Kittredge. I like the move for Colin Rea, too. Honestly, it's, it doesn't...
That's a sharp signing by the Cubs.
Yeah. He 1.2 WAR last season. Obviously, he was a Brewer, so that Craig Counsell connection maybe did a lot of the lifting there. But, a 4.29 ERA, but again, with relievers, ERA is more of a variable than you'd like. 98 ERA plus, when you average that out, is the highest ERA plus he's had in his career. So he was the most effective.
There were some stretches where Colin Rea was really, really good last year. He was somebody that was a yo-yo guy for me from the waiver wire to my starting lineup in fantasy. Somebody that I paid a lot of attention to last year as a result of that. And there were some weeks where he was, a top half upside guy in baseball. Top half upside pitcher. I think that if the Cubs can get everything out of Colin Rea, he could be a very, very under the radar signing.
And they also got him for real cheap.
Cheap.
It's a 1 year deal with $4.25 million.
Right.
A club option goes up to $6 million if in 26 if they do take that. That's kind of what you want to see. You're grabbing a guy who showed spurts last year, who's really cheap. That is the most he's ever made in a contract.
Yes.
Is $5 million average salary.
Well, he's also a younger guy. So
he's 34 years old.
Is he actually?
And that
was wrong. He was not a younger guy.
He was drafted in 2011.
Oh my goodness!
But he did
out of high school or out of college?
Out of college, Indiana State.
Go Sycamores.
He pitched the most he's pitched in his career as well. 167 and 2/3 innings. Started 27 games out of the 32. He was in a 9.1 hits per nine, 1.6 homers per nine. But generally, this is a guy I see slotting into the back of the rotation. Might end up filling a bit of the Hayden Wesneski role that the Cubs are missing now with him going to Houston, of possibly a swingman, long reliever guy, spot starts if needed.
Agreed.
Donovan Solano, any thoughts?
That's the 1 year, $3.5 million deal with the Mariners.
A Mariners team that could not buy a hit last year.
No.
Just some of the worst bats I've ever seen. And is this really your big offseason bat acquisition?
So,
what are you doing?
I saw a tweet.
Oh boy.
Which is not an uncommon thing. I see a lot of tweets.
No way.
On X, the Everything app. But
you can find us on X, the Everything app if you try hard enough.
At the Chatting AVG. But I saw this tweet or post, if you're of that persuasion, that said,
I prefer Zeets.
that said, it was one of those tweets where it's like, I'm not tweeting until the Mariners make a big signing. And then he quote tweeted it with, the guy waking up from a coma clip from, I'm not sure what TV show or movie or piece of media that is. And it got a lot of traction for do you actually think that Donovan Solano...
How old is Donovan Solano?
He'll be 37, or he is 37. He turned... Here's my thing. They're trying to compete to win the division, and it's like Donovan Solano can't be your big signing when you couldn't buy a hit last year.
Yeah,
but
correct.
He's projected around 267 batting average, 727 OPS.
He's had a ERA plus. He hasn't had an ERA plus OPS plus worse than 99. since 2016.
My thing is like, what was the issue with the Mariners last year? Was it that they couldn't buy a hit because none of their guys on their team could hit, or were they just experiencing a team filled of 162 game slump? That's my thing. Is like, Julio Rodriguez looked terrible last year.
He had a really bad
Is Julio Rodriguez terrible? No. So it's like, I get where everybody's coming from. Like, this can't be your big signing.
Hitting's infectious.
But like, they have players that can hit the baseball.
Yeah,
they have players that can propel their offense. And it's like, maybe Donovan Solano in 6 months we're looking at this going, pretty good signing. You know, he's hit 7 in their order all year and he's hitting 260.
What's interesting about it though is and shouts to Jerry DiPoto, big time active GM, right? He GMs the way that I GM and MLB The Show, for example, or OOTP, where he's always making a move. The thing for the Mariners, however, is that a lot of the moves that he makes are very, very small moves. He's not somebody that goes out and gets huge players on the market. He doesn't make giant splashy trades. So a signing like Donovan Solano kind of falls in line with a lot of the moves the Mariners have made over the last 5 years of like, oh, this could be a really nifty signing. And the issue is they just never are. When's the last time the Mariners had a guy that they signed for like $3 million that ended up turning into like a Silver Slugger level player?
Right.
Has it ever happened?
No. Ichiro, when they signed him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's a very different case. It was also 24 years ago.
Good point. But yeah, I don't know. I don't completely dislike it, but
any final thoughts on the 13th before we move forward?
No, let's hit to that. Let's go to Master Sponey.
Okay, so January the 14th, the Chicago Cubs, who had previously DFA'd him, trade Miles Mastrobuoni to the Mariners for cash considerations. I included this one because I wanted John Lieber to try and pronounce that last name, but clearly we have already jumped that shark. Do we think this move matters whatsoever?
What really pisses me off is that he used to play in Chicago, and there are 3 of us here in the chatting average, but there is a man off to our left here who's also from the Chicago area. Miles Mastrobuoni Beef is gone, and I have an issue with that.
You do?
Yes. Because may he rest in peace, the Buona Beef man. I don't know. And who cares? I think these trades for cash are so funny. Here, please take this player.
We don't need him anymore.
But also, it's like the same thing. The Cubs have done this a lot this offseason. Is like, they went and traded for Kyle Tucker. They let Cody Bellinger walk. And then they're like, okay, but we don't have money, so we're going to trade everybody we can for cash.
Right.
And it just doesn't really make sense to me.
The value of Miles Mastrobuoni is his defensive versatility. Last year, he registered across everywhere but first base in the infield and both corner outfield spots. Also had a 35 OPS plus.
There's inherent value in being able to play multiple defensive positions, but only if you're good.
Right.
I think if you're bad, it doesn't matter how many positions you're bad at. You're still bad.
Agreed.
So one of the reasons I remember Miles Mastrobuoni is the Braves announcer for TV, Brandon Gaudin. Very, very, one of my favorite guys to listen to during the MLB season. And Pierce Johnson and Brad Hand in 2023 were 2 relievers in the Braves bullpen, right? And they're playing the Cubs, and Miles Mastrobuoni comes up to bat right after Pierce Johnson is taken out for the lefty specialist, Brad Hand. Miles Mastrobuoni, a lefty bat.
Nice.
Brandon Gaudin goes, so Johnson it will change from Johnson to Hand, and Mastrobuoni comes up, after which you go about 30 seconds of silence, because color commentator Jeff Francoeur is dying laughing.
He uses the cough button and just laughs instead of coughing.
Just holding the cough button down, and you do not hear until like after strike 1 of the at-bat, where you can still hear Jeff Francoeur kind of shaky voiced. And the next season, Jeff Francoeur has taken a bit of a step back in the Braves booth, and so they have a different color guy in. But Brad Hand has since retired. So Brandon Gaudin references this and goes, well, Brad Hand is gone, so now it's just Johnson and Mastrobuoni, which I think makes sense. And, thankfully this crew kept it together a little more. Jeff Francoeur, wherever he was I'm sure was just rolling.
What's great about baseball, I mean, there's a lot of things that are great about baseball, but one of the things about baseball that always makes me happy is when you have a season that's so long, 162 games, like at a certain point you have to fill these broadcasts with something, and it can't be baseball. It cannot be baseball any longer. And so you have these beautiful moments of, the guys in the broadcast booth just completely playing with each other and just not, being serious whatsoever. There was a clip at the end of last season from the Phillies broadcast of John Cryer leaning out the window and screaming at a kid at the suite next to him, which was the clip of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Kid dropped his ice cream.
He jumped like 5 feet in the air.
It was so funny that they got the camera on it and everything. Like, you don't get that in any sport but baseball, and it's because of the nature of having so many games in baseball. I think that's what makes the sport special.
Agreed.
But yeah, Mastroboni, depth guy.
Depth guy.
That
Not a
won't be
good
used.
depth guy.
That won't be used.
He will be the Dylan Moore substitute if Dylan Moore gets hurt.
Probably will be off the Mariners by the end of the season. We move forward January the 15th, International Free Agent Signing Day. We are not going to dig into International Free Agent Signing Day because, and this is true, on the MLB transaction log, there are 10 pages of international signings.
And most of these guys
10 of them.
is like, okay, we'll find out who these guys are.
Yeah, we'll give you like
a
$125K to play in the Dominican Summer League.
Right.
And we'll never hear from you again.
or we will, and you'll end up being one of the best players in baseball in 5 years.
Right.
And we'll start talking about you 2 years before that.
The only two players I know of that I've heard anything about are that the Dodgers,
Of course.
who are going to keep coming up, signed a guy named Joseph Dang, 17-year-old from South Sudan, first player from South Sudan to sign a professional baseball contract. He's 6'7", 185.
Is he a pitcher?
Yeah, he throws
95.
Yeah,
That makes
95.
sense.
Spencer, was that a catch? Spencer says that was a catch. Interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, the game on.
The game is
Also in the room on mute is the Rams versus the Eagles, and I'm going to say that is a catch.
That is a catch.
That is a catch.
Anyway,
who's the other signing you're
the
aware
other
of?
is there is a rest in the not Oakland Athletics.
Sacramento Athletics.
The Sacramento Athletics wearing a Sacramento patch because they replaced the elephant.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant is not in the room. They took him out. Is another two-way player, Shotaro Mori. He signed him straight out of high school. Skipped the NPB draft. 45 home runs in his high school career. About 95 topping out on the hill. He was going to be at least a top 10 pick in the NPB draft. The statue away $1,510,000 deal, and honestly, those are the only two, and that's two players out of a 10 pages worth.
It's got to feel so cool when you're like Shotaro, who is like, oh, my option is like I either somehow get signed in the MLB or I go and play in the NPB for a little bit. And like everybody else in your country is going, I could just go play in the NPB and then maybe in 5 years I'll get posted and I'll go play in the MLB for a couple years.
Yeah.
This kid's like 17 and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go play for the MLB right now.
Yeah. Which is super, super cool. And you've seen a bit of an influx now of players from Japan trying to make the jump to America a little bit earlier. I think Roki Sasaki is a good example of that at 21 years old, trying to already get posted, which is rare. Before you had to wait, till you were 25, 26, 27. You also have some players, and forgive me because his name escapes me right now, but the best player on Stanford, the Stanford Cardinals, a college player, is also from Japan. So you're seeing players try and take non-traditional routes to get to America. Overall, I think that's a better thing for Major League Baseball. If the top talent is getting to your top league, that's what you want.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what route they take. You just want the top talent there.
Exactly. Moving on past International Signing Day?
Yes. The 16th of January, the Mets re-signed Jesse Winker.
It's a 1 year, $7.5 million deal. No options at the end of that. Coming back to the Mets after playing half the season, 44 games last year for them, where he was pretty okay. Played worse at the plate than he did at the first half of the season with the Nationals of 95 OPS plus compared to the 126 in Washington. But a good signing. That's depth, though, right? They don't need an outfielder.
Not particularly, not with Juan Soto there anymore. But he, if they're not re-signing JD Martinez, you can see him swallowing in at DH.
I like Jesse Winker. I don't care what team he's on. I'm like, it's a good signing.
Jesse Winker has had one full season under a 100 OPS plus. Every full season he's played, besides 2023, where he only played 61 games, he has been an above league average bat.
Crazy.
And he will continue to be an above league average bat. You're not signing him really for defense. He's 31 and he's a little injury prone. But you're signing him to be a more stable bat than the 200-year-old JD Martinez. So I think he's actually like 38 or something. But
he's definitely up there in age. Jesse Winker has always been a interesting case. One-time All-Star who was 2021, the best year of his career by an order of magnitude, 2.9 WAR that season. Last year he put up 1.9 with Washington, but just 0.1 WAR with the Mets in the second half of the year. He's not getting any younger. His defense isn't getting any better. His OPS plus has always been fine, but it's just a struggle to get him over like 300 plate appearances a lot of the times. He's not somebody that I think is a difference maker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you kind of just get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit. And I think, if you're that Mets front office, if you're David Stearns, you're like, you know what? We already got Juan Soto. We're not losing a whole outfielder's worth of production if Jesse Winker is bad, because we have Juan Soto, who might double the production Jesse Winker might give us. So he might make up for both of them. So no reason to be upset about this.
Fair enough. Moving forward, the 17th. We got 3 transactions on the 17th.
Ooh.
More to talk about. This is the first time in a little while that we've had multiple transactions on a day. I'm so excited.
Hooray.
The Sacramento A's of Sacramento signed Jose Leclerc. The New York Metropolitans signed A.J. Minter, sorry Sansoni, and the Cleveland Guardians trade enemy of the program Miles Straw to the Toronto Blue Jays for cash considerations. Where do we want to start here?
Not with Miles Straw. Let's just not even bring his name up.
I like it.
The A's signed Leclerc to a 1-year, $10 million deal. Let me switch pages to get back to his stats here.
No, it's okay. Take your time. We're not on a time crunch here.
No, we aren't.
Nothing going on.
Very true. I don't know. I like the Leclerc signing. Last year was his worst year of his career.
By far.
In Texas. Only playing, however, in 64 games. So, I don't know. I think there's definitely something still there. He's not, like, old. Oh, gosh.
He's 31.
That's like, he's not old enough that you're going, all right, he's on the tail end of his career. He could have something still left in the tank. But then again, it's also just the A's, so I don't know if they care if he has something left in the tank or if they just needed a body in the bullpen.
It'll be a low leverage enough high leverage place for him to be. Yeah. He'll be the high leverage guy in a low leverage team. And I think that's fine.
First season of his career outside of Texas, it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts to playing in a different ballpark.
Minor league ballpark.
Well, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how the A's adjust to that in general, because I think quietly the A's are having a very strong offseason.
They are.
I think that they're putting together a pretty decent team, but the underlying issues that the A's have as an organization, I think, has more bearing on how their season's going to go than the roster that they're putting together. It's going to be hard to play in a minor league ballpark all the time without much of a fan base. And you kind of have this national spotlight on you, this national animosity on you. Like Sacramento is not a place that you really want to be if you're a ball player right now. And I don't think their roster is that bad. Like, if you take this roster and staple it in, we'll say Texas, for example, with the Rangers, I would predict them as probably a division winner. But I'm not sure that the A's are going to be able to even sniff that. Is that fair to say?
I agree. The other signing that day, like we said, was A.J. Minter, who is also leaving the only team he's ever played for, on a two-year, $22 million deal. That second year, though, in 26, is a player option signing, obviously, with the Mets.
Do you want to talk about that one?
I am so tired of the New York Mets.
It's okay, bud.
And
Let it out.
Here's the
Don't
issue.
worry, the way you're feeling about the Mets is the way I'm feeling about the team that signed the next two guys. So we'll get to mine.
Let me explain something to you.
Please.
In 2021, the Braves win
2021.
the World Series.
No, they didn't. They cheated.
The
Braves won the World Series.
The back end of that bullpen was affectionately named the Night Shift by reliever Luke Jackson. The Night Shift was composed of 4 pitchers. Will Smith, not to be confused with Will Smith, not to be confused with Will Smith, Luke Jackson, Tyler Matzik, and
Former Colorado Rocky Tyler Matzik.
Current waiver wire guy, Tyler Matzik.
42-year-old Tyler Matzik.
And AJ Minter. All 4 of them are gone. But I had this feeling AJ Minter was hurt last season.
Correct.
Pitched 39 games to the tune of 34 1/3 innings, a 1.60 ERA plus, which was one of his, by far, a very productive season for him. And I had apparently misplaced faith that if nothing else was happening in this offseason, that Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves front office were going to re-sign AJ Minter. Because in my mind it was, well, he's injured. He was injured. Why go anywhere else if he hasn't been anywhere else? And now the Braves are instead looking at a very, a well that is quickly drying up for relievers. And the one guy that was homegrown enough to, you'd hope that he'd stay in that back part of the bullpen, is completely gone. And to your division rival at a very hefty sum, no less. So you're looking at a bullpen that the last 3 people are probably Pierce Johnson, former Rocky, Joe Jimenez, and Raisel Iglesias. And the other guys
Former Rocky.
The other guys that might fill in are what? Daysbel Hernandez, Dylan Lee, Aaron Bummer, Grant Holmes will go back and forth between the bullpen. I don't know. I wish this wouldn't have happened. I wish even more it wouldn't have happened for the Mets. But as much as I dislike the Mets, I know that the Braves are going to compete. That's least that I can say about the Rockies. When their division rival, the Dodgers, sign the next 2 guys. Also, Toronto traded for an enemy of the program, so we don't know.
So the Dodgers.
It's unimportant that they traded for him.
The Dodgers. I'm going to group these next 2 together. The January the 18th and January the 19th, the Dodgers make 2 splashes. They sign the best international free agent of the offseason, Roki Sasaki, out of Japan. Sign him as a starting pitcher. 21 years old. He's very good. And then on the 19th, they sign maybe the best reliever on the market in Tanner Scott, 4 years, $72 million. The Dodgers got better in their rotation and in their bullpen. Somehow they still have money to do both of these things. Mr. Sansoni, as much as the Mets continue to dunk on the Braves, and as frustrating as that is, I have a question that I want to pose to you. Mm-hmm. When was the last time that the Braves won their division?
It was like last year or 2 years ago. They were second place in the NL East last year, so 2 years ago.
When was the last time the Colorado Rockies won the National League West?
I don't think they ever have.
Correct. They have never won their division. And they never will because the Dodgers just sign all the good players. They just sign all the good players. Every single one goes to the Dodgers. It's the Dodgers. They're winning everything. They sign everyone. In 2 years, when the CBA draws to a close, there is going to be the longest lockout in baseball history because every other team is going to be sick of the Dodgers shit. And I'm not happy about it. This has been a really rough week.
John, I want to ask you, is there a financing platform that the Dodgers are acting like?
You guys ever bought something that's like $7 off of a website that like you probably know you shouldn't be buying something off of this website because it's probably coming from like the Guangdong region of China, and like
This is oddly specific.
it's like, oh, your final price is $11.95 or 7 payments of $2.15 with no interest, like with Klarna.
Wait, L-K-L-A.
Klarna Dodgers.
Klarna.
The Klarna Angeles
Nice.
Dodgers.
I'm not gonna nice that one. That was terrible.
Here's the
You know what? Here's my thing. It's like we literally looked up. We all went to B-Dubs before this. We looked.
Shout out B-Dubs.
Shout out B-Dubs. Text me.
Sponsor us.
We looked up Tanner Scott's contract details, and mind you, not everything's figured out yet. But I'm like, oh no, there's actually no deferred payments. And then I scrolled a little longer and went to the contract details, extra information portion of the website, and it said $21 million in deferred payments. What? Just pay him the money. You have the money. Like, why has everybody got deferred payments? That's what I don't understand. It's like, I get, how are you going to sign, Shohei Ohtani to a $700 million deal and give him $60 million every year? Like, that makes sense. Give him deferred money. Same thing with, like, Juan Soto or whatever. But it's like, why is somebody that you're signing to a 4-year deal not going to make his full $72 million until 2098? He's going to be dead and his grandson is going to be collecting money by the time he's getting it. The other thing is,
money's going to be devalued by that. I'm just saying the Dodgers are doing good economics.
The other thing that you have to realize is, like, okay, the Dodgers are going to have two options. The ownership is going to have two options. They're either going to sell the team right before all these deferred payments hit, or
they're going bankrupt.
No. I guess that's the third option. But, like, the second option is they're just going to rework these contracts and they're going to spread these deferred payments out even longer.
Keep kicking the can down the road.
Because, like, it makes sense when you think about it, is if I play for 10 more years, right? Yeah. Not even. If I play for 5 more years, and I'm going to make $5 million those next 5 years.
Lump sum.
Each year. Each year. I'll make $25 million over the next 5 years. But my contract is worth $100 million. I've got $75 million in deferred payments, and once you're into year 2 of that, you can approach the guy who's not playing baseball anymore and go, I know you like getting your big lump sum of money every year, but wouldn't it make sense to keep you more financially stable to receive a smaller amount for the next 10 years or the next 15 years and not just the next 5? And that's
the further you kick the can down the road, the more this is unfair. You know what I mean?
But, like, there's going to be players who are going to take that deal.
Without a doubt, there's going to be players that are going to take that deal, and that's not a bad thing for the players. It's a bad thing for every other team that doesn't get to work like this.
I don't know. We've complained about this enough, I think.
The six-man rotation for the Dodgers is almost certainly a necessity right now, because you're looking at the very least, the 5 pitchers will be able to go opening day: Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, and Tony Gonsolin. Shohei Ohtani probably won't be able to pitch come opening day, because remember, they're starting earlier this season because of the series in Seoul, I believe.
Of course.
Yeah.
But they will most likely have him pitch
a month in the season.
No later than May, probably. Yeah. Then you have Dustin May coming back from esophageal tear surgery. Remember that?
That was ate a fork the wrong way.
Also, Bobby Miller, remember him? Also, Landon Knack, remember him? Not to mention their bullpen.
Their bullpen has like 4 people that could be starters.
Tanner Scott, Michael Kopech, Blake Triton, Evan Phillips, Anthony Banda, Alex Vesia, Ryan Brazier, Michael Grove, Dustin May might be in there, Henriquez. I don't know who that is. Edgardo Henriquez.
Well, he'll probably be the best reliever of the year. Welcome to the Dodgers baseball.
It is confounding to me that this is a team that manages time and again to do this. And I know it's the money. I know it's all that. I know that, you can't resist, but it's like they've got their claws they got their fingers in every pie in the MLB, and it's not good for the team. It's not good for the league, no matter how much Jeff Passan insists it is.
Shall we move?
We should. My blood pressure's getting too high.
Yeah, I suppose we can, but one final thought now after the Roki Sasaki signing. You have him, and you have Ohtani, and you have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And what I think is that there was a Dodgers scout who was at the WBC final in 2023 and was like, you know what? I want them all.
This team's pretty good.
This team's awesome. Let's just do this team again. And you know what? They found a way to do it.
We don't know the full details of the Roki deal yet. We know that he got $6.5 million as a signing bonus,
which is a lot of money.
That is the only thing that is public about his deal because it's an international deal, which means that
And it's a rookie deal, which means he has
he's probably
so
gonna
many
make,
years of team control.
He's probably gonna make like $1 million every year for the next like 3 or like 10 years.
He'll be under Dodger control for like 6 or 7 years, which is crazy.
All right, what we're going to do now for the last little bit of this episode is go through some of the top 10 players at each position from MLB.com and react to them. Not everything. I'm thinking starting pitchers, relief pitchers, catchers, and third baseman?
We could do second and third base.
Second and third? All right.
Yeah.
I'll just read through the list.
Should we start with starting pitching? Is that what we're doing?
I will just read through the list and then we'll give like reaction afterwards. I will have their current ranking and last year's ranking. They only rank out to the top 10, so some guys are not ranked. But number 1 for starting pitchers is Zach Wheeler from Philadelphia in last year's ranking of 6. Then Tarek Skubal, who wasn't ranked in the top 10. Chris Sale, also not ranked in the top 10. Paul Skeens, not ranked. Blake Snell was 5. He stays at 5. Corbin Burns moves 2-6 from 2, so he falls a little. Cole Reagans comes in from Kansas City at 7, previously not ranked. Garrett Cole drops 7 spots to number 8, previously number 1. Logan Webb moves back 1 spot to 9. And Framber Valdez comes into the top 10 after being not ranked the year before.
So 5 of your top 10 were not ranked from the previous season. I think that's emblematic of a lot of movement that we saw in baseball last year. It was kind of a surprising year as far as starting pitchers go. You look at guys like Tariq Skubal, who go out and win a Cy Young. It's number 2 ranked starting pitcher in baseball now, coming from outside of the top 10 in the first place. It's pretty impressive. A guy like Cole Reagans making the jump he did, also very impressive. I still think there's a couple guys that get left out of this top 10 that I am a little surprised by. After the years that guys like Dylan Cease or like Seth Lugo had, it's strange to see them not here, and I'm not sure that I would have included Framber Valdez personally.
I'm not.
I think that's like the one. I think you can make the argument that Logan Webb deserves to be there, but like you can
definitely.
easily go, well, Framber doesn't have to be in there.
No.
I don't think right now that Garrett Cole is in the top 10.
Neither do I.
I think he
I
might
would
be in the
agree with
top
that.
20, but
he might be in the top 11.
But he didn't finish in the top 10 of Cy Young. Granted, he didn't really complete a full season either.
Correct.
95
and he
innings
hasn't
pitched.
for a while now.
But exactly, I don't think he's still in the same position he was.
Correct. We're letting the contract cloud our judgment.
Right.
I agree.
And
We have since he signed it.
I like the Corbin Burns slide. I think he wasn't as good. He's still good.
Yeah.
I don't think he was as good in Baltimore. Maybe he regains his form in Arizona.
I think what's going to be really important for him is that he's back inside and not pitching outside, which I know seems so weird, but like
That stuff matters.
I think he pitched half of a season indoors at American Family Field or whatever it's called. Now it's probably changed hands 6 more
No,
times.
still am fam.
But I don't know.
I personally, 2 thoughts that I have on this list. One is that Blake Snell is not a top 5 pitcher in my opinion. He had an awful first half last year. The second half was great.
He
but
also has a bad first half, always.
I know. And if you're not consistent over the course of a full year, I just don't feel comfortable calling you a top 5 pitcher in baseball. He's good. When he's on, he's really good. But if you're not consistent, you're not a top 5 pitcher in baseball. The other thing is that Paul Skeens, after making his debut last season, a rookie, is the number 4 starting pitcher in baseball. And if it was up to me, I think I'd probably have him at 2.
I get that. I'm interested. I would like to hear why Zach Wheeler at 1.
Yes, I would too. Tarek Skubal was the best pitcher in baseball, no doubt, last year.
Like he's above,
Yeah, but Wheeler has a bit of a pedigree.
but he's also above both of the reigning Cy Youngs.
Yeah, that is
Not,
strange.
and that's not
That
me
is
being
strange.
like, well, Chris Sale, the Braves vision clouding my judgment. It's not that. It's just I'm interested. I think Zach Wheeler is a top 3 pitcher on this list. I'm just curious why 1.
I like it.
What did he finish in Cy Young? voting?
3rd.
Did he?
Yeah,
Or he finished 2nd behind Chris Sale
yeah, I
in
think
NL
that's
Cy
true.
Young.
I believe you. I'm just trying to get it to pull up.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, finished 2nd.
Shall we move to relief pitchers?
Relief pitchers. Number 1, Devin Williams. Last year's number 1 as well. And then we have 8 non-ranked players following here. Cade Smith is number 2. Ryan Hesley, who was number 2 last year, is now number 3. And then it's Emmanuel Clase, Mason Miller, Edwin Uceta, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Jeff Hoffman, and Raisel Iglesias.
Cade Smith as the number 2 is kind of insane to me. Right, listen, his rookie season was great. Last year was his rookie season. Only season he's ever pitched in Major League Baseball. Comes up at age 25 for Cleveland. Has a 1.91 ERA, 2.4 WAR, over 75 and a third innings of work. That's really good. His ERA plus was 2.13. That's really good. Here's the thing about Cade Smith. He had 1 save because he was not working out of the 9th inning. And for me, if you're not trusted by your own team to work out of the 9th inning, how can you be the second best relief pitcher in baseball?
The 9th inning, unless you're the Rays, is the most high leverage spot in the whole league.
Correct.
You need your best guy out in the 9th inning in safe situations. I don't love having set up men in the top 10 because it shows, it discredits the very real impact that the proximity of the game score has on pitching.
Correct.
And, like Devin Williams being one, I have some qualms about that. I don't know. He didn't have a fantastic year by his standards last year. I don't know why specifically he's up there. I think he could be 5 or 6 and just shift everyone around a bit. But, this is a fine list. If anything, it highlights the fact that that there's always going to be a lot of relievers you've not heard of that are going to be really good.
Yeah.
Because that's just the game of the reliever.
It's like somebody just finds something for 30 games and they're suddenly a top 10 reliever.
Luke Weaver.
Yeah.
Cade Smith at 2, Emmanuel Clase at 4, so his closer 2 spots behind him. That's just ridiculous to me. Ryan Helsley sandwiched in between with St. Louis as the number 2 last year, drops down to number 3. He was a very good closer for a team that didn't need a very good closer, but that doesn't discount the work that he did. I think having Helsley that high is fine. Also very impressed by Mason Miller out of his rookie season, number 5 pitcher in baseball. There was some talk about him possibly moving into a starting role. I think if he stays as a closer, he's going to make a lot of money in his career.
Yeah, because he'll have Jose Leclerc at the 8. I think he's solidly at the 9th, the 9th inning pitcher. I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't. I don't think there's any reason why he shouldn't, because he finished as an all-star, 4th in Rookie of the Year, with a 1.59 ERA plus.
You're talking Miller?
Mason Miller.
Miller will never be displaced from the closer spot in Oakland unless he dies.
No, certainly not.
So, but yeah, that's all I got to say about relievers.
I have one more thing that I want to say. Edwin Uceta at number 6 with Tampa Bay. His only season with Tampa Bay was last year. Before that, he spent 2021 with the Dodgers, 22 with Arizona, 23 with the Mets. He had a 2.66 ERA plus, which was very good.
Right.
Over 41 innings of work. He only appeared in 30 games. In one season, he appears in 30 games. He's appeared in 55 games over his entire career. How are we putting a guy with that little experience that high on the list?
I think that's just off of stuff.
It's legitimately just the MLB ranking relief pitchers because they don't care about them.
And it's like, what's the shredder?
It's just throwing things at the dartboard.
What is the shredder? They're like, this is all according to the shredder. Who's the shredder? What's the shredder? It's like ESPN's FPI. It's this mysterious, like, HAL
Computer system that nobody knows how they built.
It's like HAL 9000.
It's like the
box.
They've repurposed the BCS computer for college football.
Like,
And we're
there's
just
just
like,
like a-
we actually have no rhyme or reason to it, and if we ask it to do it again, it'll give us 10 different guys.
Yes, correct.
Moving on to catchers.
Yes, please.
Moving on to catchers. Number 1, William Contreras. Last year's number 5. Adley Rutschman slides back a spot to number 2. Will Smith, not to be confused with Will Smith, slides back 1 spot to number 3. Cal Raleigh moves up to 4 from 9 last year. JT Realmuto moves back a spot from 4 to 5. Yainer Diaz jumps up to 6 from 8. Gabriel Moreno up to 7 from 10. Alejandro Kirk drops back a spot to 8. Sean Murphy drops all the way back to 9 from 3. And Austin Wells breaks into that top 10 and not ranked the year before. I think he could be a little higher.
Yeah, Wells is a rookie breaking into the top 10. He's the only guy that wasn't a tenured top 10 guy breaking in. I think that speaks to the fact that there's a very clear... What are you doing?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who is the person who got dropped.
Fair enough. You were doing a weird thing with your mouth.
Whoever it was number 6 last year.
I think it speaks to the fact that there's a very clear top tier of catchers. There's 10 to 12 guys that are your best catchers in baseball, and past that, it's kind of a lot of very average guys. And if you don't have one of those top tier catchers, then you're on the outside looking in. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's, I think a lot of this movement is very warranted. I like William Gutierrez at the 1. He's been fantastic.
He's been awesome.
I think Cal Raleigh might even want to be a little higher. I don't know if Adley Rutschman is top 2. He had a bit of a down season last year. I think he's top 3. He might be 3.
I agree.
I think I'd agree.
I like Sean Murphy sliding to 9. I think he will outperform that, but I think based off of the season he had last year, where playing in that tandem with Travis d'Arnaud, he didn't get a lot of that time, and he kind of pulled off, had a bit of an injury at the start of the season. Gabriel Moreno also injured a bit, so I'm interested to see why he came up as much, although he is young and pretty good. But again, I agree with John. Austin Wells, I think could be higher.
I think he could be higher. The guy who dropped out from last year's rankings was Williams' brother Wilson, because
that's what I was going to guess.
Everybody knows they turned Wilson into a first baseman and then a DH, and then he came back to being a catcher.
Actually, what they did is they turned him into a pumpkin.
Oh, true.
It's snowing in Philadelphia. Shall we move to second or third base?
Yes. Let's do.
What if I move to second?
Second base it is.
All right, here we go. A lot of non-ranked guys making their way in. Donovan Solano, not one of them. Number 1, Ketel Marte, last year's number 5. Jose Altuve stays put at number 2. Marcus Semien stays put at number 3. Brendan Donovan jumps all the way up to 4th after not being ranked the year before. Jazz Chisholm could have been ranked in any of these 9 positions we'll read out to you in the next 2 weeks, but he moves into number 5 at not ranked. Tyler Fitzgerald up to 6 from outside the top 10. Brandon Lowe, 7. Nico Horner moves up 2 spots from 10 to 8. Andres Jimenez moves back 2 from 7 to 9. And Gleyber Torres, the Detroit second baseman, number 10.
Gleyber Torres being in the top 10 for second baseman speaks to its very weak position right now.
Agreed.
I think that has less to do with Gleyber Torres and it has more to do with the position as a whole. If Nico Horner is the 8th best player at your position is not very strong. It's simple as that.
Agreed.
What? Brendan Donovan?
Seems a little high.
Exactly.
He had his worst OPS. He had a 112 OPS plus. That was the worst OPS plus that he had his entire career. He had a higher WAR because he focused more on defense a little bit, and he actually found a consistent starting spot between second base and outfield and wherever they put him.
Yeah, he was playing like 6 positions the last 3 years.
But I'm interested to see if Jazz Chisholm even lands at second base. For my money, I thought by now Nolan Arenado would be in pinstripes and they'd kick Jazz Chisholm back to the Keystone. But
yeah, we've talked a little bit about this roster construction for the Yankees, and for what it's worth, I'm pulling up their Fangraphs designated depth chart right now, and Jazz Chisholm is listed as a second baseman. Yeah. He's listed as a second baseman, but I'm still just not sure that's going to be the case. I can't see them rolling into the season with Oswaldo Cabrera as their third baseman starter.
Some of the guys who dropped out of second base from last year include Luis Arraez, Matt McClain, love that guy.
Well,
Edouard Julien, because he got sent down to the minors, and Zach Geloff. Geloff.
And Mookie Betts moved off of second.
And Mookie Betts moved back to right field.
And then but this time he'll either be right field or shortstop.
Yeah.
All right.
Could be a first baseman. You never know. Do we want to do third base or do we want to save that for next week?
We've got third and center still that we have left.
Let's save the outfield for next week.
All right, let's do third real quick.
Let's go to third.
Number 1 is Jose Ramirez. Last year's number 2. Rafael Devers is number 2 from 4 last year. Bregman is, for some reason, in the top 3.
Yeah, that's ridiculous to me.
Currently a free agent, not getting signed, and there's no buzz around him last year's number 5. Manny Machado moves back a spot, 2-4. Austin Riley drops to 5th from 1st. Matt Chapman moves into 6th from not being ranked. Nolan Arenado stays put at 7. Max Muncy in the same spot as last year at 8. Isaac Paredes at number 9. And Eugenio Suarez at number 10 to round it out.
That's a little surprising to me to see Eugenio that high. He's had some good years in the past. Was a 40 home run guy once upon a time in Cincinnati. I don't think I would have him in my personal top 10, but other than that, the most glaring thing is Alex Bregman at 3. What are we doing?
And I know we talked about this on the last show again, but it's like, what has he shown?
Yeah.
He hasn't been good for 3 years.
What has he shown to move up 2 spots?
That's it. It's like Manny Machado moved back for him.
Yeah. Austin Riley moved way back for him. And I would still take Austin Riley over him 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. Austin Riley, I feel like could probably still be top 3. He had his worst year last year, unequivocally.
Yeah, his power just wasn't what it was the year prior.
And,
That'll come back.
McQueen is fading.
But
Don't get me started.
I think that he's still top 10. I think him being at 5 is low but tolerable.
Yeah.
Again, Isaac Paredes, maybe. I mean, he does have the Crawford boxes now, so I can see why you want to buy high on that.
Max Muncy at 8 is interesting, considering the fact that he might not play third baseman for the Dodgers this year, depending on how one of their 8 million international prospects comes up.
But isn't this just like based on last year? It's not even predictive. It's literally just what they thought were the best 10 first basemen last year, or the best 10 at each position last year.
Well, if that's the case, Nolan Arenado, who had an awful year, should not still be sitting at 7. Respectfully, somebody that in my heart is the best third baseman in baseball and has been for a very long time. His best years are behind him. Third base, I think, had its golden age about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have still a lot of the same guys that are around with Jose Ramirez, Nolan Arenado. Manny Machado, once upon a time, was a third baseman as well. There's a lot of those guys that are still in the game and still available and still having an impact at the major league level. But they're older now, and the next guard outside of like an Austin Riley hasn't really come up for third base yet. I just don't necessarily see them as what... I don't see third base as a position as what it used to be.
Agreed. Well, we'll finish the rest of those positions at some point, probably next week if the MLB figures out how to put them out onto the internet.
That'd be cool.
They said that they were going to do it like every Tuesday, Thursday or something. They were going to release a position, and that was like 16 weeks ago. So
the shredder overheated.
No, yeah, been there.
The shredder, Cody Schrader.
You and I'm getting rid of important documents. The shredder?
Nice.
All right, let's move on to the grid. Let's just move on to the grid. So, the Immaculate Grid. We're still recording.
No, I'm
What's
just
the
making,
Immaculate Grid?
I'd like to mark that point. 57 minutes in. The Immaculate Grid is a 3x3 grid with 9 intersections, in which case you need to match things in those intersections. So, row 1 today, the Twin Cities. Twins.
That's where we'd all go if we were free agents. Remember that?
That is true. That is where we'd all go. The San Francisco Giants in row 2 and the Texas Rangers in row 3. The Atlanta Braves, John's team, in column 1.
Column run.
A less than or equal to 3 ERA season for column 2. And 200 plus wins in a pitching career for column 3.
So, this could either go for Braves Twins or Braves Giants. Now retired infielder and pinch hitter extraordinaire, Ehire Adrianza.
Where? I'm sorry.
Either Braves Twins or Braves Giants. I
have a Braves Giants shout.
Let's do Braves Twins. Ehire, Ehire.
Who is your Brave 1%? Who's your Brave Giant?
Kevin Pillar.
True.
He was season wonder with both of them.
I miss Kevin Pillar.
0.9.
Hey, there we go.
Braves Rangers. This could be a few people.
Probably, yeah.
Charlie Culberson is one that comes to mind. But he actually started in Texas. He actually played games in Texas. Bartolo Colon is one that comes to mind as well, but he's, he fits anywhere and everywhere.
Correct.
Trying to think back. Jake Odorizzi. Did he actually play in Texas? He got traded to Texas, but he never actually played. You could also do Colby Allard.
You want to go with that?
Colby Allard.
Yeah, Colby Allard. Kolby. Colby with a K.
.5. I have a twin with a less than 3 ERA, but I'd like to bring it up to the group.
Yeah, please.
Sonny Gray.
Ooh.
I just don't know if that would be high enough. But I don't really care, to be honest. Sonny Gray. Yes? No?
Sure.
3%. Not
3%?
terrible.
Hey, that's
terrible.
not bad. That's not bad.
Giant with a less than 3 ERA. It might. I wonder if he could be like one of the rookies this year that made starts for him. I'm trying to think of you could do like a position player. Did position player pitching count?
Should count. Or did we just do a pitcher to make sure?
What about? I mean, someone who had a really good season for him this year was Ryan Walker, but he was a reliever.
I have a Texas less than 3 ERA.
Do you?
Jake Diekman.
Okay.
Gotta love when you can use Jake Diekman in the grid.
I do like that.
What about for the Giants, Mauricio Llovera?
I'm not familiar with that name.
Sure. LLOV.
LL. Yep.
0.02. All right, now we've got 200 wins as a pitcher for all 3 teams.
Okay. How high do we think Max Scherzer would be for Texas? He's got to be super high, right?
Probably, yeah.
Because he was there 2 years ago.
Although, still an option.
Yeah, but we can find a better option, almost certainly.
True. Sharp.
For the Giants 200 wins, you could go Juan Marichal. But that one might be very high.
You want me to put it in or no? Take that as a no.
Yeah, I would say no. Any thoughts on any of these? Does Bartolo or CC Sabathia satisfy either of those?
Probably.
For
200 plus wins.
Bartolo's got 200.
Bartolo has 247.
Well, yeah, but teams that he played for, I mean.
He played for the Twins.
Played for all 3 of them, did he not?
He second to last team was the Twins. Last team was the Rangers, and he did not play in San Francisco.
Okay, well, if you want to use him for either of those,
I want to use him
feel
for the
free.
Twins.
Okay.
Just because I feel like most people, I sometimes think of Bartolo Colon in a Rangers jersey.
I think of him as a Met.
Well, he
almost
pitched 146 in the 3rd inning in Texas. He only pitched 80 games. He was traded from the Braves to the Twins.
Bartolo's 6% for the Twins.
Hey, that's pretty good. So we need a Giant, we need a Ranger.
Correct.
Giant and a Ranger.
Ranger and a Giant.
Giant Ranger.
Ooh, thoughts. Good job.
That's a good shout.
We ain't got nothing.
I was thinking of Cole Hamels, but he did not get there. I don't know why I thought Cole Hamels would get there, but I was just kind of hoping he would.
Okay. Fair enough.
Who pitches in Texas?
Nobody.
That's the question.
There's
the question.
There's nobody that is a pitcher in Texas. This ain't Texas.
Woo!
And
Hey, I got one for Texas.
Sure.
Jaime Jamie Moyer.
Oh, he did pitch in Texas.
This ain't Texas.
Woo! Ain't no hold 'em. Hey, it's not loading.
No, it's all right. Take your time.
Jamie
We've got no
Moyer. Jamie Moyer.
Rockies legend.
Wait.
The patented Jamie Moyer changeup. Remember that commercial?
1%.
I do. 1%?
1%.
Hey! It's my first good contribution of the year.
Giants, 200 plus wins in a career.
200 million?
No.
200 million wins.
I mean, 200 wins as a Giant.
Not as a Giant.
Randy Johnson did finish his career at San Francisco.
That is true.
But it's such a big name.
It is.
Yeah, well.
But he literally he pitched 17 games in 2009 to a .3 ERA.
Yeah, but it's such a big name.
It is a big name, but we got Bartolo Colon on there. He's a massive name.
That is true.
That's a massive man, too.
Both of them.
Big boy. What do you want? Is that what we want to do here? I'll put him in. I'm going to put him in because
Are you going to put him in?
Because nobody's saying anything.
They never actually opened the text box for that, but
I did. It just wasn't loading. But
Okay.
Come on.
going on with your laptop, man?
27%.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
This is why we haze John.
Oh, John.
John, get to work on this episode. Start editing it. Oh. Well, I apologize, but that is 27% on Randy Johnson, so it's a final score of like 80. No, 41.
Oh, wow. So more than half of our points were from that particular pick.
He was the most common.
No, he was the most common answer. Most common
pretty
answers left to right, top to bottom. Josh Donaldson, Johan Santana, Bert Blyleven, Jacques Peterson, Tim Lincecum, Randy Johnson, Mark Teixeira, Nolan Ryan. Hardest spot on the grid today was Braves Twins at 47%. There are only 11 players for the Rangers who have played and had 200-plus wins, who have pitched for them.
That's interesting. The Rangers have been around for literally forever.
24 for the Giants, 19 for the Twins. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Chatting Average. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube.
You can.
This episode will be on YouTube, but you're not going to be able to see my beautiful face or John's or Adam's, so
No.
sorry. Maybe we'll put like fun little pictures of us on that one. Probably not, because it'll just be more for John to
That'd be a
do.
lot for John to do.
I'm just gonna use the graphic we always use.
Oh, lazy is what I call that. You can also find us on Twitter at ChattingAVG. The ChattingAVG. It's our logo. We'll probably be tweeting something dumb.
It's true. Good chance.
It's good.
The
very
Chatting
good
Average
choice.
has learned that we're bad at the grid today. And we're very sorry about that. But, boys, it was fantastic. It was fantastic being able to do one last in-person one before Adam Busak decides that
We're shaking hands.
he doesn't want to go to Columbia anymore. So, John and I are still going to be here in Columbia.
True.
We'll still be doing these podcasts as usual.
Yes, I will fly to Columbia every week to do
No,
this podcast.
he won't be doing that.
We'll be doing it in person every single week. That's
No.
a guarantee.
And you won't know the difference.
You could also...
The audio quality will not be different.
Anyways, thank you for listening. For Adam Busak and John Sansoni and Spencer Vermeer, I'm John Lever.
And Mickey Doolittle.
He wasn't here.
He was at the
He
beginning.
was here at the beginning. He was screaming. That was his screams at the beginning. Thank
Those
you
were not edited
for tuning in.
post.
And as always...
Bye.